you all for coming today. I want to welcome you to our program. To introduce our speaker, John Nelson. Some of you already know who he is. And he just recently, he told me just in March, retired from L3. So he's been out there quite a long time now. And also want to thank this month's sponsors, which is Carol Perks and John Bird. And John Nelson has been collecting both Star Wars and Star Trek for probably several decades now. And as you see, some of you have seen the Star Wars collection. Someday we'll have to get his Star Trek collection too out here. And so without further ado, I'll turn it over to John.
So a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, those are words, the opening credits that everybody recognizes. But you know, I'm going to take you back a long time ago whenever I started this. But as far as far, far away, I grew up just about 2 blocks from here. You know, the Long Branch out here, my home was just about 2 blocks north along Long Branch, Coleman Street. That's where we moved in 1966. So that's where I will start. I was 9 years old, and I had a real good friend that lived down the street from me. His name was Gerald Dean. And he was an only child, and his parents were real strict, no TV in the house. And so he would sneak over to my house to study, and we were watching the original Star Trek TV show. And we were watching that, and you know, I don't know to this date if his parents ever knew what he was really doing, but that was kind of the start of my interest in space and science fiction. And then in 1967, I was of course 10 years old. I started collecting. How many of y'all remember these S&H green stamps? Yeah, and, you know, they used to give you those whenever you go. This was like the prehistoric, you know, points like you get on your credit card now. They would give you S&H green stamps, and they came in like 1, 10s, and 50s. And you had this book, and you would get the stamps, and you put them in the book, and there was an S&H green stamp redemption store in Greenville, and we'd go there and we'd redeem it for, you know, toasters and stuff like that. Well, then, you know, my mother, she kind of got me started collecting those. We'd go to the grocery store, and you know, if the clerk forgot to give us our stamps, I would say, "Where's our stamps?" You know, I had to have those stamps to put in the book. And then, of course, my mother also was a collector. She collected during her life owls and hummingbirds, thimbles, and salt and pepper shakers. So every time we went somewhere on vacation, she'd have to get a salt and pepper shaker too. And so, she passed away in 2013. I still have all that stuff that she has on top of my stuff. You know, I can't get rid of it because it was just, you know, part of the family. Let's see, that was that was in 67. In 68, I went to see the space movie 2001: A Space Odyssey in the Texan in downtown Greenville. And I can remember, you know, as a 10-year-old, not really understanding the whole thing. And I remember having to stand in line for 2 blocks to get in to see that movie. So that was kind of another, you know, that was kind of growing my interest in space and things of that sort. In 69, I was, of course, glued to the TV for the Apollo moon landing. So that was, you know, just couldn't get enough of that. In 1970, you know, 13 years old, I started collecting postage stamps, you know, especially space stamps. And I don't know if you know, but today the post office came out with some new stamps, and I've already been to the post office. These are Star Wars Android stamps. So you go by your post office and get those today. So anytime anything space comes out with stamps, I always get it, and I've got lots of stamps. Let's see, at 72, when I was 15 years old, I started collecting 45 RPM records. And there was one of the museum board members, Larry Winters. I was always in awe with him because he had a whole garage full of records. And there's no way I could compete with him, and I always loved to go and talk to him about records. And I collected every album that the group the Carpenters had. You know, I've got it on vinyl, cassette, CD. And anytime I see a DVD or whatever, I get it. So I've got a lot of their music. Okay, 76, I was 16 years old, started collecting first day covers. And these, again, are stamps that come out, and they issue them on the first day of issue. And they have a special cancellation. And so I've already ordered my first day covers for the stamps that came out today. Let's see, and then on May 25th, 1977, that's when the Star Wars movie debuted. And I was 16, I was working at the Royal Drive-In in Greenville, which is where the Dairy Queen is now on Wesley Street. And I just gotten my license, my first car, and so my first big trip by myself with coworkers was to Dallas to watch Star Wars. And it didn't come to Greenville for several months. But we got it together and we drove over there, and I can't even count the number of times I've seen the movie, on DVD or Blu-ray. I lost track of how many times I've seen it. So really, that was my first, like I said, my first trip by myself to the big city. Of course, I got hooked on the movie the first time I saw it. Okay, December 7th, 79. That was the first Star Trek movie. As I've always thanked Star Wars, because I don't think there would have been a Star Trek movie series had Star Wars not been so successful. So I always appreciated them for getting Paramount to say, "Oh, we got one of those. We can do that." So thankfully, Star Wars led to the Star Trek movies. And I can remember I was working my first job in Fort Worth in that year, and that's whenever I came out of the closet as a Trekkie, because I had a calendar on my desk like 6 months before the movie, and I had counting down to when the Star Trek movie was going to come out. And so everybody, of course, learned then that I had this Star Trek, Star Wars, interest. Okay, in the 1980s, I began collecting just science fiction books. I have enough science fiction books to last me through retirement and then some. So I've still got a lot of books that I can read. Okay, September 28th, 1987. That's when Star Trek: The Next Generation started. And I had a big Star Trek debut TV show party. And I think Lynn Prater was there. Were you there?
Yeah.
I don't remember if Peter was there or not, but
Yeah, I think I was there.
yeah, it was a cookout and all. I think a lot of the nerds from work were there. And we had a big time, and there were even girls there. I couldn't believe it. And it was a great party. It was a big success. Okay, in the early 90s, I started collecting Star Wars and Star Trek action figures. And that's the little figures you see in the packages. They're about 3 or 4 inches tall. And I have, probably well over 100. And I've got 2 rooms in my house where all the figures are hanging at the ceiling border, completely, cut. And I even have extras. I don't even have room for all of them. And they're still all in the packages. So, of course, there's a lot of things to dust in my house whenever it's time to dust, which has been a while. Okay, 1993, I went to my first Star Wars, Star Trek convention in Colorado Springs. And that was a lot of fun, and people were dressing up. I didn't dress up, but I went, and took pictures of people that were. And the main actor that was there was Brent Spiner. He was Data in The Next Generation. He was there, and I just couldn't get his autograph because there were so many people trying. But I got to see him, and it was just packed. Shoulder to shoulder. We were standing up. There were so many people there. And so that was a lot of fun. Let's see. In the late 1990s, I started collecting Hallmark ornaments. Of course, they're Star Trek and Star Wars. And like I was telling some of them, I think I have every Star Wars ornament that Hallmark has come out with. And back when we had a local Hallmark store, I think I was on their speed dial because they would always call me. So you ready to order your ornament? They call me in June to order my ornaments for Christmas. And so they knew who I was, and I was sad to see that store close. See, in the 2000s, I started collecting lighthouses, and I do have hundreds of lighthouses all over my house. It's another collection problem that I have. I've got candle holders, curtains, bed sheets, quilts, solar lighthouses in my yard, and stained glass lighthouses. It's too much. And then at Christmas, people give me those because they think I need some more, and I really don't. May 15th, 2005, my collection actually made the front page of the Herald Banner. They were promoting the Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and so they put me on the front page with this picture down here that you see. Of course, this was given to me at retirement, and a friend of mine took it, and he put my face on a lot of these characters. But this was actually, we owned the miniature golf course in Greenville for 20 years. And so I put a lot of my stuff in the game room at the miniature golf course and took a picture of it, and that ran in the newspaper that year. They were promoting the movie because they heard that I had all this stuff. And so that was another 5 minutes worth of fame that I had. Let's see. In 2010, I started collecting DVDs of all the Star Wars movies and the Star Trek series. I have all of them on DVD. In 2013, I started collecting things with the word joy on it, because my mother, that was her name, and she passed away in 2013. So at Christmas time, you can find all kinds of things with joy, and so now people started giving me things with joy on it at Christmas. 2015, I have a cousin in Houston. Her name is Kathy, and her daughter's husband's mother, so it would be her son-in-law's mother, passed away. And she was a much more avid Star Wars collector than I was. And so they knew that whenever she passed away, they didn't really want the stuff. So they told me that, they said, well, we'll sell it to you at a reduced price. A lot of her stuff was autographed, so it was really, really nice stuff. And if y'all remember, I had in my cubicle at work, a lot of that stuff I had in there was stuff that I got from her. And unfortunately, the lady that collected it all didn't really have the money or the resources to do that. Excuse me. And she ran up a credit card debt buying this stuff. She would fly to Las Vegas to conventions to get things signed. So when she passed away, she had a huge credit card debt. And so I told them that I would pay off her credit card debt to get all, and I'm sure I got over $10,000 worth of stuff. And I met my cousin down in Corsicana. She drove up from Houston. I met her halfway. And I had a U-Haul trailer full of stuff from that. And she, even to this day, she'll call me and say, I found something at a garage sale or estate sale. And she'll, usually I see her twice a year, and I usually have to end up giving her $200 whenever I see her to reimburse her for the stuff she's bought for me. See, in 2019, I started collecting items with this to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. So I have several things. Again, I had some of those at work too. So I started collecting those. Of course, they had stamps that came out. And I've got a stamp series going now where I'm getting space stamps that commemorated that from all over the world. So that's kind of an ongoing collection I've got going now. And on my bucket list is eventually in retirement, I want to go on a Star Wars cruise. And I've already checked, the one in 2022 is already sold out. So I've got to be better on the ball and booking one of those, but I'd like to do that someday. And so I guess to wrap it all up, I've got a top 10 list of collections that I've done over the years. Number 10 is, of course, my CDs and records, and a lot of them are 45s, which you don't see those anymore. Number 9 is VHS and DVDs of Star Wars and Star Trek movies. Number 8 is, of course, things with joy on it. Number 7 is crosses. I also like to collect crosses. I have stained glass crosses and stuff like that. Number 6 is metal and tin nostalgic poster, signs, like you see some in here. I've got lots and lots of those that I had up at the miniature golf course when we were open. Number 5, science fiction books. 4 is stamps and coins, especially space related and national park related. And number 3 in my list is Star Wars stuff, which when I was getting the stuff ready for this display, I told several of you I didn't realize how much stuff that I actually had stuffed under my bed and in the back room and in the closet when I started looking at it. And I've run across things that I forgot I had, and then I know I have things that I can't find, so it's kind of frustrating. Of course, the number 2, as far as things I collect, is lighthouses of all types, and of course, number 1 is Star Trek stuff. And I've already mentioned that I'd like to be able to someday have a Star Trek exhibit also. And I've often wondered that I could put in a whole wing of this museum, Star Trek, Star Wars stuff. In fact, one of my coworkers here has mentioned several times I need to have my own museum. So on my retirement, I had a friend at work, Tim Clem, who put together a book for me, photoshopping my picture in all kinds of situations. And I brought the book in to y'all can look at it if you want to. And with that, that's the end of my little talk. And I would like to thank John Isnaga for getting me involved in all this, and Susan, and everybody for allowing me to come and speak and share my stuff. It's nice to see it out for people to enjoy and see. So thanks a lot. Thank y'all for coming. Now, you haven't seen it.
Oh, yeah. We're going to see this.
Yes.
I think we should probably do that.
John, if you had one wish in Star Wars, what would you like to have?
Well, I wish Disney hadn't bought them. And I've got a lot of friends that kind of don't like the direction the movies are going after Disney purchased them. But they do have that TV show called Mandalorian, which is on the Disney Channel, which I watched it and I was really surprised at how well I liked it. And so there's a second series of that coming, and I think in January, so I'm looking forward to that. But I just think they've changed the franchise some, and I think a lot of other hardcore Star Wars fans would probably agree with me. Yes?
Yeah, I know they changed the directions of the films, but aren't you interested in going to Disneyland to see the Millennium Falcon?
And now that they've reopened, I've seen those commercials with the Millennium Falcon flying. I guess you're in a virtual reality thing, but yeah, that's on my bucket list too. Yeah. So I've also often wondered, whenever I do pass away, I don't know what my brother's going to do with all that stuff. I think he's going to just probably throw it out at the curb. Or I've had several friends that say, well, we want to make sure we know whenever you're gone so we can come over and get some of your stuff.
Need to work up some for donations. I have a collection that will go to the museum and another one that will go to the city of Greenville.
Yeah, that'd be a good place for it to go, because otherwise, and the relatives I had in Houston, I don't know what they would have done with that stuff had I not been willing to get it. But yeah, I've still got some of that I haven't even unboxed. Just so much stuff. And now I'm beginning to worry whenever I take all this stuff out here back home, where am I going to put it all? It seems like all my stuff is grown. Yes, they took the head off my great nephew, the baby Yoda. There was a baby there. Okay, and that's the lady that I'm in Sunday school with, and we do a skit. And they took that picture and put it in Greece. And we were in Greece whenever
So has anybody asked, what's your favorite?
Nobody, I thought somebody might ask that. And I can't think of
You can't think of
anything.
one in
No,
particular?
No, they're just all, they're all my favorites. I just can't get rid of anything.
Would you like, I guess maybe what comes in first of your collections?
Did you hear my top 10 list?
Uh-uh.
It was Star Trek stuff.
Was it? Okay.
And Star Wars was actually number 3.
Okay, yeah. See, it's always funny because you seem like my mom is a huge Star Trek fan.
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars is okay, so it's so funny how different
Yes.
people all follow different on that.
And I've got a relative that also works at L3, and she is Star Wars, and her husband is Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, when they got married, she had a Star Wars wedding.
Oh.
They played the Star Wars music when she went down the aisle.
Uh-huh.
And the only thing missing was she didn't have Princess Leia's buns.
That's cool. Yeah, one of the things we found out when we were doing some research for the exhibit and everything, one of the things I found really cool was about, and I asked Mom if I was old enough to have gotten one of these, and she said no. The first year Star Wars came out, only one toy company signed on with Lucas. Nobody else would touch it. And so it was a small toy company. And so by the time the film came out and everybody realized how big it was, all they had was like board games and puzzles. That was it. Their figurines weren't going to come out until the next spring. So they sold these IOU boxes for Christmas. Is basically what it was. An empty box with some stickers, a little postcard that said, mail this in and you'll get your figurines in the spring. And they sold those for about $15 each. And it was a huge hit because everybody just wanted something Star Wars-y to give their kids for Christmas. And they sold hundreds of thousands of these. And they did do good. They did, in fact, they got them out a little bit early. I think in February, they started shipping them out. It was like, I'd never heard of something like that before. So I was like, Mom, I was 5. I said, Mom, was I old? Nah, we wouldn't have done that for you.
And those boxes are probably worth something now.
They
But people
are,
just threw
they're
them away.
big collector items now. They're really rare to find. All right, well, thank you so much for coming out today. And of course, hang out, ask some more questions, look around. Let's see, next month's speaker is going to be Ron Robinson. He's going to talk about D-Day, which actually falls on the day of the talk. So And May 22nd is our Audi Day event, and also on the 21st, we're showing To Hell and Back at the Texan Theater. And on the 22nd, we have actor Michael Dopty's coming, as well as Marjorie Lewis, who wrote When the Men Were Gone, based on World War II, and some other stuff too as well. Michael West, historian, will be talking, so looking forward to that, and thank you all for coming.